All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back on Soul of the Skull after a handful of weeks, and we've got a guy on the screen who hasn't been here in a while, so really happy to have him here today as we break down some prospects, break down the NFL draft. The NFL draft is in 3 weeks, 2 weeks from tomorrow, so it's coming up quick on us. We got lots to talk about, lots of players to break down, and yeah, that's kind of that. So, um, the Vikings, as of right now, they're pick 24. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're the 24th pick. We'll have to see what happens. Either stick, trade back. Trading up's probably not really in the cards right now, but we'll just have to see what happens. So for today's episode, what we are going to do is we're going to pull up. There it is. That is the Vikings roster. We're going to kind of do a deep dive into that, see what positions are in need, who are some players that could be available to fill those, who are you guys high on, who are you thinking might be overrated and not as good as people make them out to be. And yeah, that's kind of that. So as we look at it, there's the Vikings roster. They've got 17 million in cap space, at least as of the last time I checked. So they still got some room to add on. Even post draft, they're still going to have 10 or so $1 million, probably, maybe even more than that, if they want to add more players. So kind of looking at it position by position, quarterback seems pretty set. Of course, McCarthy's seems to be the starter after the Aaron Rodgers debacle that Sam O and I chatted about last time we were on. And looks like they seem to be intent on adding a backup quarterback probably through free agency or trade after the draft's over. The comp pick formula window ends. So drafting and quarterback don't really go in the same sentence right now, unless they go with a late round flyer on some guy like Jared Hall. Again, they're not looking for that. But moving along, we've got the running backs. So Aaron Jones is coming back on a 2-year deal, I believe, if I recall. Then they also traded for Jordan Mason. So we'll just have to see. To me, the Jordan Mason trade signals less toward drafting a running back, at least high. They would look toward the later rounds, especially with, obviously, we've talked about Ty Chandler hasn't worked out, but they could still ultimately go with one. So I guess with that said, I'll leave the floor up to you guys as the resident college football and draft prospect pros. What do you guys think the Vikings could be doing here? Could they be in the market for a running back potentially? Would it probably be in the later rounds? Who are some guys to keep an eye on? Who are you high on? Take it away, fellas.
I can lead this one off.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so I think if they're gonna draft a running back, earliest would be like 5th round. I've seen a lot of mock drafts. Ollie Gordon, who was an absolute stud for Oklahoma State, is falling down to the 4th and 5th round, and so guys like him, this is a really deep, really good running back class. There's a lot of studs out there, Omarion Hampton from North Carolina, Travion Henderson and Quinshad Judkins from Ohio State, obviously Ashton Genty from Boise State. There's just a lot of solid running backs out there, and honestly, I think that we could get a top-tier running back in the 5th or 6th round, even that late. As for Jordan Mason, I am not expecting him to take a huge role in the offense this year just because, he had a great season last season. I don't envision him having as much of a breakout season this year as he did last year. I think, a lot of people were really high on him. Oh my gosh, he's leading the NFL in rushing yards. Vikings offense is not centered around the run whatsoever. The 49ers offense is very run, play action kind of an offense. And we like to air out the ball. We got the best wide receiver in the NFL, one of the top number 2 receivers in the NFL as well. We have a great receiving core. So I don't expect Jordan Mason to have a huge, great season like he did this last season.
Yeah. Looking at running backs, the ones I really kind of dove into were guys that I'm expecting to go in like the 3rd round. I've been high on like Dylan Sampson, Travion Henderson. Both those guys I've been really high on. Obviously, trading for Jordan Mason isn't really going to change or is going to change that. That's probably not going to be a spot that the Vikings look to go running back. Later in the draft, There's a few guys, DJ Giddens from Kansas State. Like Sam Z said, Ollie Gordon, I think would be a solid pickup. Devin Neal, these day 3 guys. There's even like Brashard Smith, Woody Marks, Kyle Monangai, that you could look at in the 5th round. My guy out of Michigan, Khalil Mullings, could be a potential name. So like he said, this is a really deep class. There's a lot of guys, even if it's not necessarily a guy that comes in and plays right away, taking a flyer on a later day running back would be a solid option. And, he'd probably come in and compete with Ty Chandler. Who knows what happens with Ty Chandler? Obviously, he was kind of designated to a special teams role this past season. So there's a bunch of names out there that I would definitely watch for on day 3. And a lot of guys that honestly were just solid college running backs, I think have some tools that could translate well into this Vikings offense for sure.
I think noting Ty Chandler there was really important as well because we've had Ty Chandler now for a couple of years, and he just has not lived up to the expectation he was supposed to. Honestly, don't really see him with the Vikings after this next year. So Jones, I think this is last year as well. So Jones, Chandler, both going to be gone after this year is my prediction. And so I think we're going to need to get somebody to go alongside Jordan Mason just to see if we can get a guy that'll work out for the long term.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you were just saying there, this is the final year of Ty Chandler's rookie contract, and unless has some crazy productive year, which no one envisions happening, I just don't see any way the Vikings can bring him back again. It seems like an experiment. They tried, it hasn't worked out. Everyone moves on, and change of scenery might help. I don't know. New system. We'll just have to see. So
yeah. It's not that he was a bust. I mean, he was a 5th round pick. Like most of these guys don't end up panning out. I still think he has some tools athletically, but he could be a potential cut candidate even this year, I feel like. And that's not like a Kwesi miss or anything. That's a 5th round pick that doesn't work out. That's 90% of 5th round picks. So
yeah, no, for sure. And that was a good point bringing that up because he's not expected to be a number 1 NFL running back and go crazy on everyone. He was just kind of a late round guy that people thought he has a lot of upside, but just hasn't worked out. So nothing against him there. Maybe he can find those skills and do something with it with another team, and hopefully he can. But as we look along, then there's the receivers, and I have seen over the past few days, I've just seen receivers in the Vikings having a little more steam. I don't know about you guys, but obviously Justin Jefferson is legendary historical talent, and then Jordan Addison's been very good as well. But at the same time, the Vikings probably aren't going to bring him back in a couple of years following his rookie contract. He's going to go somewhere else, make more money, and that's kind of that. And Jalen Naylor, Rondale Moore, kind of fighting for that number 3 spot right now. Neither of them are great, but they suffice, I suppose. Could the Vikings be in the position to either bring in a low-end receiver just to kind of compete with Naylor and Moore for some snaps in the wide receiver 3 spot, or could they maybe be looking potentially higher up for a guy that when Jordan Addison potentially leaves, could maybe take his role and be another great young receiver? This team has done such a good job finding young receivers over the past 5 years now. Historically, over their whole timeline, they've done that, but especially lately. What do you guys see? Is that a possibility at all, or what do you think in there?
I could take this one first. I think Jordan Addison will probably get paid to stay here. Now, unless that can change, obviously, if he has some sort of off the field issue again. I think I would be pretty shocked if the Vikings spent like a 1st round pick on a receiver. There aren't a ton of them. But like, even if they did draft a Matthew Golden or a Luther Burden in the 1st round, I don't see that. I mean, it'd be awesome, right? You had another weapon, but I don't see them doing that. I still think they're pretty high on Jordan Addison, and I think he's obviously a really good receiver. So, maybe in the 5th, 6th round, they take a flyer on somebody, but other than that, I don't see receivers like you have to draft this guy. Obviously Rondale Moore came in. He's kind of one of those 1st round guys that hasn't necessarily panned out. But I think this receiver room is pretty set, at least for your top 4 guys.
I want to talk about my favorite under the radar player on this Vikings team, Jalen Naylor. Joel knows I've been high on him for years.
You've
I
been
love
Jalen
Jalen.
Naylor stan this whole existence of this podcast.
I have been. Jalen
We're
Naylor
coming up
is
on
dude.
2 years now. Actually, past 2 years.
I've been high on Speedy for a long time. I really like him. He had a pretty productive season this last year. I think he hauled in. I think it was like 3-4 games in a row. He had a touchdown. It was crazy. Being that number 3 wide receiver, the teams aren't expecting a whole lot of production from him. And then him scoring as many touchdowns as he did as a wide receiver 3, that's just another aspect of our game that teams got to prep for. And, honestly, I think he's been the guy for wide receiver 3. It took him a couple years to get there. He had a lot of injury issues. He had a lot of just troubles in training camp, moving his way up the depth chart. Finally, he did it. Finally, he got his chance. And, man, he really took advantage of it this last season. So I'm huge on him. I really like him. I don't imagine the Vikings will bring in a receiver at all, personally. If they did, like Samo said, it'll be late round, 5th, 6th, 7th round. One question I have is I don't know who Tim Jones is. Who's this guy?
I had also never heard of him when they signed him, and I
Where
had
did
to
they
ask
sign him
Matt.
from?
I was like, "Who is this guy?" He's just kind of a rando.
He's just a dude.
I was like, "Yeah, no wonder I've never heard of the guy."
Came over from the Jaguars. It sounds like he's kind of a special teamer. I think he has like 3 career receptions, so he'll probably be a guy who's battling to make the roster at the end of that receiver room.
Gotcha.
All right, pulled up his stats on ESPN. In his career, he's played 51 games. He's got 17 receptions on 27 targets for 154 yards, no touchdowns. Hey, maybe he'll break out. Who knows?
Yeah. You know who I would love to see get a little bit of playing time this season is Lucky Jackson. I would love to see Lucky Jackson get on the field. I met him at training camp over the summer. Got a picture with him. Just a great, kind guy. Super nice dude. He had a pretty good training camp from what I heard. So I would love to just see him get a couple of reps. Just throw him out there every now and again. Kind of like what they did with Trent Sherfield. Just get him out there. Let him make a play or two. Let him get some reps on special teams, things like that.
I feel like for the past couple of years since he's been on the team, he's always good for a handful of nice catches during the preseason, and then you don't see him again after that.
Yeah, exactly. What the heck's up with that?
Practice squad guy. Maybe he'll continue to play good in training camp, have a good preseason, and maybe he'll find his way onto the active roster.
I would love for him to make the active roster. I mean, every single preseason game, he makes a couple of great plays. He scores a couple touchdowns, and he's a baller. He's a stud. I like him a lot. I mean, obviously, he's not going to be the wide receiver 1, 2, or 3 on this team. Probably not even 4.
No.
But if we have 5 receivers, generally you have 5 receivers on a roster?
5, 6, yeah.
Yeah, 5, 6. Let's get him on the field every now and again. Let's let him do something. Give him a target or two, every couple of games.
Wow, I guess you learn something new every day. And I didn't know until today that Sam Z's love of low-end depth chart receivers was just great.
You guys don't know anything about Chad Beebe. What do you know about Chad Beebe, huh?
Oh, man.
That's got to be top 5
man.
receiver of all time for me. I love Chad Beebe.
The man clutched up for one game-winning touchdown,
and that was it. Had with the Vikings as the wide receiver 4. Love that dude.
He runs his own training, football training program now.
Does he really?
I think so.
He one time, so I was in I want to say 8th grade at the time, and there was a touch football thing that we had through our school, and at the end of the year, they always got one Viking player to come out to it, right? And so I was helping out coach. It's 1st through 5th grade or something like that for this touch football, and I was helping out coach. And end of the season, Chad Beebe comes and talks to us. And I was like, holy crap, I've seen this guy. He's returns punts and whatever else, This is awesome. This guy's super cool. And after that, it was that was over. No. I love Chad Beebe, dude. He's a great guy.
So yeah, I'm trying to do a little deep dive on Chad Beebe right now.
There's not much about him.
Hasn't played in the NFL since 2022.
Yeah.
No.
The latest article I can find about him was 2023. He launched a faith-based program in Tennessee, merging football and faith.
Yeah.
Good for him. Great guy, I'm sure.
And his dad, Don Beebe, was a wide receiver for the Buffalo Bills that played in a Super Bowl. I believe in that Super Bowl, he made a game-saving forced fumble on a fumble recovery or something. Punched the ball out at the 1 yard line right before the D lineman scored. I think he forced a touchback or something like that. Safety, maybe.
Yeah, you're right. It was going for a touchdown,
Yep.
and then he knocked the ball out because the other guy, the Cowboys guy, was slowing down. That's the only reason I know him is because of that.
Yeah.
Well, that's that. But you know what? I suppose this is something I could have done. I've also got a list of Vikings prospects that I've seen that they've met with. I guess we could have looked at that, see if there's any guys that you know of. So if you want to retroactively go back in the receivers and running backs, if there's anyone you want to talk about, if not,
I completely forgot Cam Scatabo existed, actually.
There are some
Great
people
name.
that are
Top
very
tier
high
football
on
name.
Scattaboo, and I'm just not. So,
There are. I think he's got a really high ceiling, but I think he's got a really low floor as well.
Yeah.
He's a risky guy to draft, in my opinion.
I mean, I don't necessarily see the hype. I think he's got some power. I don't think his speed is NFL speed though. So
No, he ran like a 4.6 or something like that.
Yeah.
He's not quick.
no.
Yeah, so that's that. After each position group now, we can kind of look at this. If there's anyone that you want to touch on, that's cool. Seems like mostly a lot of low-end dudes so far, I guess.
Well, yeah,
No.
that's to be expected.
That's
Wide
kinda,
receiver wise, yeah.
but I suppose we can keep looking along. That moves us. Tight ends, really nothing to talk about. They're rolling solid with the Hawk and Josh Oliver.
They're going to
No more
need to
ja-
pick one more up before season starts. So either late draft, UDFA, something like that.
Some
They're just
low-end depth guy.
Yeah, they're gonna need a guy who can play a little bit, fill the Johnny Munt role, which is kind of a guy who can he can block and catch passes, but he's not really like insane at either
He's
one.
good for 1 touchdown a season.
Yeah. So a guy who can kind of come in and just, he can block and catch passes, but he's not some crazy. Obviously, he's not going to be super good if he's the tight end 3. So
Always remember, you're not just bringing in a replacement for Johnny Munt. It's a replacement for the best third tight end in the NFL, according
Exactly
to
right.
Kevin O'Connell. Love me some Johnny Munt.
Love me some Johnny Munt, dude. I went to the Texans game this year, and Johnny Munt caught a touchdown there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, stadium went crazy.
There's no one that doesn't like the guy.
How could you not
about him?
like Johnny Munt? How could you not like him?
Yeah, exactly.
He comes in and he just puts his head down and he works.
He's a man of the people.
He
That's
brings
what we
his
love.
lunch pail every day. All right.
All right. Well, as we look along the offensive line, they're pretty set at tackle. Not really in the market for anyone.
no.
But then as we look in the interior, maybe they could be. They've really shorted up pretty well through free agency, though. We talked about they've brought in Will Fries, who's one of the best young guards in the game right now. And then they got Blake Brandel, he's a guy, He's been the swing tackle. He just sticks around because the coaches like him. He hasn't been great, but I guess he's serviceable. And then obviously they brought in Ryan Kelly as the center, he's older, but he's played really well. And even lately into his elder years, he's still been playing really well. Who on the offensive line? Because they could be looking for a left guard, or Will Fries is a right guard, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure I wasn't bugging for a minute. But so they could bring in someone to compete with Blake Brandel and maybe have a guard competition. Who are some guys? I've seen one name I've been seeing around. Again, I'm not a draft guru, but I've been seeing the name Gray Zabel out of NDSU being floated around. He's listed as a tackle on PFF, but it sounds like more recently he's gotten into the interior and he can play any position on the line. And I listened to some Score North sometimes, and one of the guests they have on is Thor Nystrom from Fantasy Pros or whatnot, and he's really high on him. He thinks he could potentially be a starting left guard day one. Who are some guys you think that, and is there anyone that could come in and compete, or are they just going to bring in? Yeah, I don't know what I'm saying, but
Otherwise,
could they bring in guys to compete?
out of Ohio State? He's a stud. He's going pretty high in most mock drafts. The one I'm looking at right now, he's at 17 to the Bengals. 6'4", 315, big dude, right? And moves guys. Obviously, Ohio State's run game was phenomenal this year. Their pass pro was really good this year as well. So he can kind of do it all. I haven't looked too much into Gray Zabel, but I have heard of him. The only concern that I have with guys like him is the translation from FCS to the NFL versus FBS to the NFL. It's a much bigger change.
Yeah, I've had the chance to watch Zabel a little bit. He's actually listed a lot of draft websites have him listed as a center. I think he's a guy who can come in, he can play guard, potentially move inside to center once Ryan Kelly's gone down the road. But he's a guy I'm pretty high on. I like him a lot. I would be totally cool with drafting him at 24, or he's a guy maybe you trade down and they could even get him in a trade down situation. My other guy is Tyler Booker from Alabama. He's a very good, just dominant interior lineman. The way he blocks. He was just moving dudes. I went and watched the Georgia game, and just moving dudes all over the place. He can get out, he can pull, do a lot of the stuff you ask out of a guard. So I think at 24, those two names are two guys that I really like that I would watch out for.
A name that you might see in the second round a little bit, and I'm going to butcher this, but his name is Jonah Sevainea out of Arizona.
He's another guy that's
right there. Yep, Jonah Sevainea. I've heard good things about him. I haven't watched any tape on him personally, but I've heard really good things about him. He seems to be, a pretty solid overall guard. He's listed as a guard and tackle on this list that I have. Let's see. It doesn't say how tall or how heavy he is, but I'm assuming he must be a pretty tall guy then if he's listed as a tackle as well.
I looked up
6'4", 324, so he's pretty big.
I was seeing the same thing. He was also born in the American Samoa, which you can definitely see with that name.
Yeah, so big dude. But yeah, good prospect. I like him a lot too.
So that's that. And that kind of moves us along to the defensive side of the ball. They've also been shoring up the defensive line, as that's been a struggle, stopping the run in the past. And they brought in Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrave, and obviously they still have Harrison Phillips. And they also have a lot of depth dudes as well. Jalen Redmond, he made some great plays toward the end of the year. Taki Taimani made some good plays, and I know they were really high on Levi Drake Rodriguez as well. Do you guys think that a defensive lineman is still in the cards, or is that something that they maybe shored up with in free agency and feel content with where they are? Some of the dudes they brought in are older, though, so maybe they could still be looking for more young guys.
I'm definitely open to it. I've always loved Kenneth Grant out of Michigan. Obviously, I know him really well because he played for Michigan. He's a great run stopper, can rush the passer. He's a dude who's he's just a freak athlete. He's super fat, super quick for a defensive tackle on the field. There's a clip of him against Penn State, chasing down a running back, and he's 330 pounds. So, he's a guy that if he's there at 24, I think you snatch him regardless, even if you will be a rotational guy for the first few years of his career. So that's kind of my one defensive tackle that I absolutely love.
I am a huge fan of Jalen Redmond. Just like Joel was saying, he made a bunch of good plays near the end of the season. Honestly, I think he's got a chance to, I don't know how long Allen or Hargrave are here, or Phillips, I guess. I'm assuming it's not going to be more than a year or two that we're going to have all three of them. I think that he could move into a starting role at that point. I think he's a really athletic guy. He's got super quick feet. He's got a great first punch. He's got great hands. You can't really ask for much more in a defensive tackle. He can split doubles pretty well. I like him a lot.
Yeah. That sounds like football right there.
Otherwise, I'm looking at your thing. Derek Harmon is, obviously he's consensus stud.
Yeah, I've seen his name floated around left and right among draft people that do this kind of stuff, Also, I know nothing about this guy, but I want to bring attention to the This guy here, Nazir Stackhouse. What a name.
What a name.
All-time football defensive lineman name right there.
I know a few things about him. He's a big dude, pretty good run stopper. I don't know what round he will go in. There was some concern. He actually has narcolepsy. It sounds like it's not a concern for the NFL, but that's just one thing that some scouts were concerned about. I can't remember what round he was potentially. I don't even know when he's projected to get drafted. He'll probably be a 7th UDFA guy, but he's an interesting name, honestly. Like outside of his actual name, like he's an interesting dude that would be cool to bring in and see how he does.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, they've been bringing in some prospects, handful of guys here. And with that said, I don't know if you guys have any edge rushers. They seem pretty set. Grenard's great. Van Ginkel's great. Turner's young. I'm still a bit of a Bo Richter stan, and I think eventually he's not going to maybe be great, but he could be good. Same with
Bo Richter could be definitely a rotational guy.
Yeah, but nothing like seeing on special teams. Also, like we were talking about Stackhouse, high-level football name, Bo Richter. Great name, all-time. So I don't know if you guys have any. Otherwise, we can just keep moving along.
I have one.
Target.
I have one that I could see the Vikings drafting, and he is a stud. Also out of Michigan. I promise I'm not being biased. He is genuinely one of my favorite players in this draft. He's a projected 3rd-round pick. His name's Josiah Stewart. He had the highest pass rush win rate out of any of the edge rushers in this class. There's a lot of people that are high on him, but I absolutely love him. He's one guy in the 3rd round that if he's there, like I think the Vikings should take him, and I think he will be a very good player in this league. He was also called the toughest guy on the team at Michigan, which obviously Michigan is very hard-nosed, tough, blue collar, known for their tough blue collar football team. And so, yeah, I think he's the one edge rusher that I would absolutely love if they drafted. But like you said, they're pretty set there, so I don't envision a 1st-round pick going.
Yeah. And I may have asked this question before, but I don't remember. So I'm going on a mini side street. How did you become a Michigan fan?
So when I've been around, I've been around NFL for, I think I've watched the NFL for 12 years now. Obviously I got into it through watching with my dad. College football wasn't the same at all for me. I didn't start watching college football until I was around 6th, 7th grade. And I never really watched the Gophers. So I started watching, and I wasn't really a fan of any team, but I started watching some Michigan, the way they play, the way they, Jim Harbaugh was the coach at the time. I'm very big Jim Harbaugh advocate. But just their hard-nosed style of play, I absolutely have loved from day one. And that's kind of how that started. I don't know. It's no crazy reason around it, honestly. But the year I did start watching them, they went like 7-5. It's like one of their worst seasons in the past 15, 20 years. So I get called a bandwagon all the time, which I think is funny because that's the season I started watching them.
It is kind of funny. Obviously, Michigan's on another level, but it's funny hearing the words 7-5 and bad season in the same sentence. The Gophers would take that in a heartbeat.
The Gophers have kind of become
they love being 500.
7-8 and I still love the Gophers. I watch every Gopher game too. It's always fun watching those two teams play each other.
Yeah, usually doesn't end well for the Gophers, but that's also them against.
I almost had them this year though.
Yeah, that is right. But as we look along, same with inside linebacker. I don't think they're really in that much of a rush to get anyone.
We got Eric Wilson back.
Yes. Let's go. Former and current Vikings legend again, Eric Wilson.
No glove demon.
Yes.
I don't think his role will be as big as it once was, but obviously special teams ace, great special teams player, can rotate. Probably takes that 3rd spot. I have one linebacker I love in the draft too. His name's Jahad Campbell out of Alabama. He's a projected 1st-round pick, 2nd rounder, but he's an absolute stud. I think if he's there at 24, I would love to take him, even though linebacker isn't necessarily a big need.
Yeah. Yeah, they seem for the most part pretty set. Cashman's 28 or 29, and then Ivan Pace just finished his second season. Asamoah hasn't really panned out like we thought. Very good special teamer, but as far as linebacker wise, hasn't really panned out like people thought he might. And then of course Eric Wilson, as we have touched on, but they got a pretty good future there. Not looking to bring in any starting guys. It would just be depth at that point, probably. As we move along, that moves us to the secondary, which is where I'm sure you guys are about to have an absolute field day here. So they brought back Byron Murphy Jr., which Sam Z, I know, is a huge advocate for. And Mekhi Blackman, returning from injury, brought in Isaiah Rodgers. Hasn't had the most snaps in his life, but he was very good in Philadelphia with the time that he spent there. And then they also brought in Jeff Okudah, bust prospect, but hey, he didn't have Brian Flores.
Yeah, very quasi signing. I think he'll make the team. He probably won't play a super big role, would be my guess. Corner's also a position. I know I think we were talking about it before the show, but corner is a spot that I could definitely see the Vikings going. I was talking about how I'm super high on Jahdae Barron, although I doubt he falls. Some other guys to watch: Siobhan Ravel, Azari Thomas, Benjamin Morrison's another name I've seen thrown around in Viking circles. So all guys to watch out for.
Yeah, I think the consensus number one corner in this draft right now is still Will Johnson, Michigan guy, of course. You know him. Honestly,
I know him. Yeah,
I like Jahdae Barron better than Will Johnson personally. I like that Jahdae Barron is a very aggressive player, but he can still play a very under control. That's what I really like about him. Where Johnson's a much more what's the word for it? He's more like careful, a lot more careful of a player, which is a good thing as a corner when you don't want to allow touchdowns every play. At the same time, there's a reason that Barron had so many more PBUs. There's a reason he had more interceptions, more pick sixes. Johnson, he kind of sits back. He waits for the ball to come to him. Barron goes after the ball. So, of course, we're not going to get Jahdae Barron. And if we do, that would be a miracle. We're not going to get him. That, I think, goes without question. The next highest corner I could see going would be Siobhan Ravel, who I know we talked about this pre-show, but I can't justify drafting him because he's got one season on tape and he's coming off of a torn ACL. I just don't imagine that he's going to be as studly as most teams think he's going to be, right? I think he's got a great build. He's quick. He's lengthy. He's got great coverage skills. Very good in space. Locates the ball well. But that's all last year and very early this year. Coming off of that injury, who knows if that's going to be the same?
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously we're similar. I think you did a great job breaking down Will Johnson. Definitely 100% agree. He's kind of a guy who lets the game come to him a little bit, which isn't a bad thing as a corner. Obviously he was phenomenal at Michigan. I watched him time and time again just take away a team's number one receiver. At times you could take away half the field. Jahdae Barron has been my guy ever since during the season. Like I think I watched the first Texas game of the year and I'm like, yep, that's an NFL player. Although my number one guy is Travis Hunter. I think he's just an unreal athlete, unreal player, unreal prospect, not unlike anything we've really ever seen. And I think he will be a phenomenal corner in this NFL. I have him higher than Will Johnson. And then I think Will Johnson and Jahdae Barron are pretty close for me. And obviously if Jahdae Barron does fall to the Vikings, that would be a home run, slam dunk pick. Guy could come in, start day one, no issues with it.
Nice. Excellent analysis that we got there. They got a lot of dudes in the room, but they're not all high-end players. But they got a lot of meh guys.
I'm very excited for Mekhi Blackman this season. He had a really good rotational rookie season. I think he 1 interception, 2 interceptions, something like that. Very, very rotational guy. and, coming off the torn ACL, MCL, I think, from this last year, didn't play the whole season. And now he's coming back. I'm really, really excited to watch him play. I like Isaiah Rodgers from what I've seen from him. There's just not much that we have seen, and it's kind of hard to throw a guy out there in a big role if you haven't seen him play much, right? Because I think at the point we're at right now, we would love to have Byron Murphy be our slot corner guy. I mean, he's going to be on the field almost every defensive snap the whole season. I think is very. We've known that was going to happen. Mekhi Blackman is obviously an outside corner. He is not going to be playing in that slot area. So Blackman, of course, going to be our second starting outside corner. But I don't know, is it going to be Rodgers? Is it going to be Okudah? Is it going to be someone from the draft? Who's going to be that third guy that's going to be our outside guy? It's not going to be anyone below Okudah is my guess on that list. Najee Thompson, very big special teams guy. Also got hurt last season. So I'm very curious what direction they'll go.Maybe they'll switch Jay Ward to play corner. I know he played corner in college. He can play corner in the NFL maybe as well. So it's very – we'll see what happens. It's very up in the air right now.
Yeah, I think with Isaiah Rodgers, I think there's something there. I think there's some potential in him. I watched him a little bit. He's definitely a Flores player. He's an aggressive corner, plays with a lot of energy. So I think there's definitely something there with him kind of being that third corner. Obviously, a draft guy comes in, whoever that may be, that could be a good someone to compete to. But I mean, Jeff Okudah, maybe if he has an outstanding training camp, I don't see him taking that cornerback 3 role. I think he's probably a long shot, but yeah, so a lot of options. That's probably one of the biggest questions for me going into draft, and then after the draft's training camp and all that stuff is who's going to take that role.
Yeah, for sure. Feels like the same thing we've talked about for 5+ years now, 10 years. Oh, who's their corners going to be? They don't have a solid corner room, but maybe it's better now than it's been in the past. So that's at least a good thing. They got some high end players, and we'll see if the other guys can work out. But as we move along farther back into the DB room, I don't know if you guys got any safeties. Harrison Smith, since the last episode, we found out he is returning again for another season, at least another season. Josh Metellus is the Swiss Army knife that we all know and love. And Theo Jackson is a guy that the Vikings really do seem to like a lot. And he's played pretty well too. And Sam Z talked a little about Jay Ward. He was a corner in college, converted to safety. Seems like they really like him for sure on special teams. We'll have to see if he makes a step up in the future. So is there any safeties at all that you got your eye on, or not necessarily?
I got 3 guys. Okay. My number one guy, and I said this to you guys pregame, and Samo disagrees with me on this. My number one guy is Nicky Manwari. All right. I love that guy. He, in my opinion, when we draft a safety right now, we're looking to draft a free safety versus a strong safety, right? We're going the free safety route right now because we got 2 solid, strong safeties on our team, and Harrison Smith and Josh Metellus, okay? Right now, Theo Jackson is our weakest of the 3 starting safeties. When you're drafting a free safety, you want to look for a guy that's similar to what we were talking about with Will Johnson, where they kind of let the game come to them, kind of going to sit back, scan the field, wait for things to come to them. You don't want a guy that's going to be a super aggressive player, right? That gets you a lot of PI calls. That gets you a lot of, you're the last line of defense. You have to be a little bit more conservative than other players. So I really like Nicky Manwari for that reason. He's able to locate a ball in the air. He reads quarterback eyes from 40 yards away, right? He is honestly he is a perfect free safety, in my opinion. Now, you look at other guys. So you got these 2 other guys I'm going to talk about, Malachi Starks and Xavier Watts out of Notre Dame. Malachi Starks out of Georgia, he is your strong safety, right? He is a very typical strong safety. He's a bigger guy, plays in the box a lot, blitzes a lot, very, very handsy with receivers. That makes me nervous because I don't want to see him getting a lot of pass interference calls, holding calls, anything like that in the NFL, because they've really started to crack down on that recently. He is an incredibly handsy guy. He's a very aggressive player. Now, he's a really good tackler, and I like that a lot. He's really good in man coverage, but I think the reason he's so good is because he's so handsy. He grabs onto the jersey a lot. You watch his highlights, he gets really grabby. Not a super big fan of that. And then you talk about a guy like Xavier Watts out of Notre Dame, and he is your perfect hybrid safety. All right. He can play deep and conservative. He can also play short, in the box, in the flats. He'll play anywhere you can put him. He'll be able to do it. He can blitz. He can cover, man and zone. He's a very good player. Still, though, Nicky Manwari, that's my guy. That's my number one.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Sam Z's high on Nicky Manwari. I think he's a great player. I don't think I don't think the Vikings would draft him, although they obviously could, and I'd stand here looking like an idiot, and I'd be fine with that. But my guy at safety is Kevin Winston out of Penn State. He's a guy who is a projected third-round pick. He became a starter as a sophomore, was a phenomenal player as a sophomore. His junior year, so he's only a one-year guy because his junior year he tore his ACL, I believe. Yes, he had a knee injury. So that makes it a little risky, but I think Kevin Winston, if he would not have sustained that knee injury, he's a first-round pick. He's a phenomenal player, never was penalized at all. He's played some special teams. He's explosive. He can tackle. I think he has all the tools to be a very, very good NFL safety, and he's projected as a third-round pick, and I think if they grab him at that 97th overall pick or they trade down or whatever and even reach for him a little bit, I would be absolutely ecstatic to get him. I think he's one of the top safeties in this draft class, and I think he will be a very good player in this league for a long time. So that's my one kind of other safety that I really like that Sam Z did not mention.
Yeah, I'm just going to add on a little. So I looked up Nick Imanwari's PFF page, and you can see the teams he's most drafted by in mock drafts. And he's the most drafted by the Minnesota Vikings. In 16% of drafts, he ends up going there, followed by Chicago and Philadelphia. So not that really means anything, just kind of a little nugget that I found while you guys were talking about that. So
I think the thing for me with the safety class is there's not really a consensus number one guy.
No.
There are, those three guys that I talked about, they're all being talked about in, mid to late first round and early second round. Those three guys are all gone by, I'm going to say, pick 42. All three of them will be gone, and they'll all go within probably 10 to 15 picks of each other, just because they're all very similar level of talent, but they're very different players.
Mm-hmm. So that pretty much finished out the roster. I'm sure you guys don't have any special teamers that you'd like to bring to the table here.
Well, Sam might. I don't have any.
The only one that I could think probably be a UDFA would be punter. Now, I have not, you can say whatever you want. I have not looked at any punters in this class this year.
Come on, what are we doing here?
Maybe if we get into the depths of draft season and I'm bored one day, I'll look at punters. There's no Tory Taylors this year, unfortunately, but Ryan Wright's the only guy where I really see there's probably going to be a competition. And I have not. I haven't paid attention. Obviously Andrew DePaula, I don't care. I don't think he's not going anywhere. But
long snapper.
I don't think they bring in a serious kicker competition for Will Reichert. I think he's good enough to just have that job. Maybe they bring someone in just to mess with him psychologically. I could see KOC Kwesi doing something like that, but I don't think anyone but Ryan Wright's going to get any competition.
I'm fully with you there. They're just bringing guys for competition, but they seem pretty set with these three guys. Also, random note, Andrew DePaula is 37 years old, so eventually they are going to have to replace the guy.
Yeah, we'll cross.
He's not going to be out there at 100, so they're going to have to find a new dude eventually, but we'll see.
If I'm not mistaken, didn't Eric Wilson used to long snap?
No. Maybe he was the backup long snapper. I don't know.
Could have been.
When I went to camp this last year, Johnny Munt was doing some long snapping.
What?
Yeah.
I remember you telling
me. No, it was Nick Muse. It was Nick Muse, not Johnny
Nick Muse. Oh, yes. I do remember that, actually.
Wow.
Hey, maybe if he doesn't get picked up by a team, we re-sign him and just keep him for the long term and make him into our long snapper.
Yeah.
Maybe
Oh, yeah,
we
he
run
was
some
taking some long
stupid package
snapping,
out of a
I think-
field goal where we have him go out for a pass.
Yeah, so that's a run through of the Vikings roster, ladies and gentlemen. All their players, any last any last players that they've for sure talked to that I've seen around Twitter and other places. There's your final look, everybody. If you want to pause and take a look at it, feel free. So, yeah, handful of guys. They'll probably bring in more within the next couple weeks here, but that's that. With that, I'd say we can get into predictions. We can shelve I'd think we can do a mock draft simulation maybe next week, and we could go through some of the NFL rule changes and some of the things that owners are talking about and whether they're good moves, not good moves. We can do some of that next week, I'm thinking. How does that sound?
Sounds great to me.
All right. Well, as we look along, here is our predictions, which we'll close out the episode with. Only a handful came off the board. Only a handful have come off the board since we just started the new season of it. First, I said Aaron Rodgers' decision wouldn't be made till March 26th or after. Now that seems like a layup. At the time, it was 2 weeks before March 26th is when I made it. And that's when all the buzz was around the Vikings. Like, oh, could the Vikings bring him in? And I'm like, no, it's Aaron Rodgers, guys. He's going to take 20 years to decide. And it didn't happen. So I would not be surprised if it's after the draft, honestly, even into the summer, because he's Aaron Rodgers. So that's kind of that. So now it seems like a check down, but at the time it was not intended to be.
Yeah, I can vouch for him. It was a fair prediction at the time.
Yeah. Finally said next summer's Netflix, as in this upcoming summer, because I made this last year. Their Netflix documentary would be on DBs in some way, shape, or form. Well, they're going back to quarterbacks. It was Kirk, Jared Goff, Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
That'll be pretty interesting. That'll be fun seeing. Well, it won't be fun because I wish all the best for Kirk, but seeing Kirk get benched in that season,
yeah,
it'll be good content. It'll be entertaining.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's kind of that. But also, there's no way at all Teddy Bridgewater's going to be a Vikings coach anymore. Now that I look at that, I just don't see that like I did at one time. But I digress. As we move along, Sam O, you had one prediction a little bit ago, and this prediction came off the board only I feel like it was only a couple of weeks after you made it, so
yeah,
not along there.
Yes, Garrett Bradbury did get cut. I thought they were going to stick with him, let him play out his final year of his deal. I'm not upset Garrett Bradbury got cut. I've been a Garrett Bradbury defender for a long time because I think he gets too much hate. However, I mean, Ryan Kelly's a better player. I'm not going to argue with anyone on that, and I'm not upset that Garrett Bradbury got cut, obviously.
What I was really hoping would happen is that they could trade Garrett Bradbury, and then you would backdoor the prediction, and it would be right by the verbiage. It would have been awesome, but couldn't quite find a trade partner like they could with Ed Ingram. So that's that.
Yeah.
Well, looking at our standings here, finally I had a correct prediction, so I'm on the board. Just 1 for 4 as we're still young into the season. Sam 0 for 3, struggling a bit, but hey, it's not over till it's over. So
no.
And as far as the other Sam, Big Lou, and Matt, they have not had any predictions come off the board. In fact, Sam Z, this is first episode of the current season, so these are about to be his first
episode since probably October. It's been a long time since I've been on.
Been a long minute.
Also, I'm looking back to the 2023-2024 stats, and do you remember how Matt kept calling me just a check down king? Like every single pick I made was a check down.
Yeah.
In 2023, right?
Yeah.
My percentage was under 42%, and your percentage was over 50 in 2024. And I didn't hear any hate towards you.
I know. It's kind of crazy.
That's ridiculous.
I don't know how I got so many right. Maybe I was just making easy check down predictions. I feel like I will defend myself a little and say I feel like I did have some wild things that actually did turn out to be right that I predicted.
I think you had a couple of them, but it wasn't
not that many.
Of those.
Not that many, but yeah, it was a really lucky year, and we'll see if this year balances it out. I remember during the season, the middle of, so we run these seasons Super Bowl to Super Bowl. Otherwise, the numbers would just get super high, and It would be kind of annoying. So that's why we do them based on seasons. But I remember I had such a crazy start. I had like 70% for majority of the year, and then it finally came down toward the end. Still was double almost Sam in second place. So
Still crazy. Yeah.
that's kind of that. Maybe
Yeah.
you're just mad that you got last. I'm just kidding.
You know
You only
what?
had 20 come up.
The only reason I got last was because I got so much hate for doing so many checkdowns the season before. All right. So I started doing a bunch of crazy predictions, and none of them turned out to be right because they were all terrible predictions. And then I didn't get any hate for it. Well, I still got a little bit of hate for it from Matt. He's just a big time hater.
Yeah. I'll say the predictions I'm making today, one of them I'd say is fairly likely to hit. The other two are kind of like pretty specific.
I'm throwing a check down in there. I gotta start the season off correctly. You gotta start with at least one completion.
Yeah. Even if it's a 2-yard check down to the running back.
Hey, you know what? Tom Brady said that he's the greatest of all time because he kept throwing checkdowns. So
it worked for him.
Hey, if it works.
All right. I'm saying Sam O should probably go first since he's got to get skedaddling soon here. So
yeah. Do you want me to just do all three?
For time's sake, probably that'd be better.
Yeah. All right. So my first one is a little bold. And it's a draft one. It is that Jackson Dart will be the third QB taken in the first round. I believe there will be 3. It will be Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, and Jackson Dart. I actually think Jackson Dart might be better than Shedeur, honestly. I'm not super high on Shedeur. I loved him in college, and I've been a big Colorado guy, but I don't love Shedeur, and I think there's going to be a team that backs into the first, that at the tail end of the first round takes a flyer on Jackson Dart. I just think it's going to happen. Then I think the Vikings will spend their first pick in the draft on a lineman that can be offensive or defensive. I think they're still looking to beef up that interior, and I think that's probably the most likely scenario. Either that or corner/safety would be my guess. So that's kind of my second pick or my prediction. Third is not a football one, but I'm gonna do it anyway. It's that Rory McIlroy will finally win the Masters. I've been a Rory. You guys might not know this about me, but I've been a big Rory McIlroy guy for a very, very long time, and it's the one major he hasn't won, and I think this is his best shot at at winning the Masters. So I think he's finally going to break through this year. So that's my third prediction.
Nice. And if the Vikings go with the defensive lineman, you're double dipping because you already said they'd take a defensive lineman, so you could go 2 for 1 here.
He's just doubling up. He's just doubling down on that.
All eggs in one basket. There we go.
Yeah. So if they go corner or something, that's going to be 2 wrong ones for me.
Yeah. This could help a lot. It also could hurt a lot.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to hop off now. It's probably a good spot for me to stop. So I'll see you guys later.
Good to see you, Sam. Have a good one.
See you next time. All right. You want to go next? You want me to go? It's up to you.
I can go next. All right. So I thought this first one was going to be a check down, but now that Sam put his predictions out there, I'm not so certain about it. But my first one is that the Vikings' first pick is going to be a DB. It's going to be a corner or a safety. I'm fairly certain on that. I think that's the weakest part of our team, and late first round, early second round, I think is going to be a really good spot to get a good safety. But at the same time, I guess they could go O-line, D-line. I don't think they will that early. I think they'll wait for a bit, but
I don't know if I see a D-line as much anymore, but I could certainly see an offensive lineman.
Potentially, yeah, but I just
specifically
most of our offensive linemen in this draft they're either high to mid first round or they're late second to early third. I just don't think that's a good spot to get an O lineman unless we trade that far back.
Yeah, you don't want to reach for someone that's not that valuable,
Exactly, and that's what I was saying before with the offensive guards is just don't reach for one. We're set for the year. If we got to reach for a lineman, let's do it next year.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
All right. So there's prediction number 1. Prediction number 2. This one's kind of bold, but I've just got a feeling. I've got a feeling about this one. Vikings are going to draft a quarterback after round 4. All right. Don't, hate on this pick. I mean, the odds are this is a terrible pick and it's going to be wrong, but I would love to see them get like Dylan Gabriel in the 5th round or something like that to be our 3rd string quarterback.
Yeah.
I would just love to see them just get some late round quarterback and make him our 3rd. Because here's the thing. We got a quarterback on a rookie deal. We got our backup on a tiny deal. If we can get a rookie quarterback on a tiny deal as well, we're sitting in a really good spot cap-wise.
Yeah.
I don't really want to go into free agency or have to trade for a 3rd quarterback. I mean, if we have to, we got to do what we got to do, of course, to get that number 3 guy. But I think the draft is a great place to look. Brett Rypien, he's a young-ish guy, isn't he?
Good question. I don't know that much about him other than the fact that fans don't like him because he's just not that good.
Yeah, well, yeah.
He's 28.
That's about okay. So he's young-ish for a quarterback. Yeah. JJ McCarthy, obviously a young guy. He's 24 or something like that.
Oh, he's younger than that, isn't he? Like 21.
Is he only 21?
He's 22.
Oh,
he was born on January 20th of 2003.
Ah, that makes me feel old.
He's only that'd be a year and a year and 7 months or so older than I am, and I'm just a normal dude here.
He's just under 2 years older than me.
I'm just a normal human in college, and this man is a 1st-round NFL quarterback. What am I doing with my life?
What am I doing? Yeah, what are we doing with our lives, dude?
Sometimes
talking about dudes our age. This is really, or like Ryan Williams, how he was 17 the majority of the season. And he's just like cutting up SEC defenses. Like, what's going on, man?
Yeah, it's crazy. Like Connor Bedard of the NHL, generational talent right now. He's 19 years old, and I'm 20 years old. What am I doing? What am I doing wrong here? What am I missing?
Oh God,
Something
yeah.
Apparently.
I don't know. It's uncomfy. It's a really uncomfy feeling. It makes me feel so old.
Yes.
We're the same age as a lot of professional athletes. Or like, who's the one for the Wolves that was like 19? Was it Terrence Shannon Jr.? Is that who it was? Or was it Rob Dillingham?
Could be either of them, honestly. Shannon is
like
24.
The same age as us or something like that.
Shannon's 24. Dillingham is 20.
So it was Dillingham. That's who I was thinking of.
Same thing with Ant Edwards. When he emerged into the league, he was only like 19, 20 at the when he was a rookie. So
it's just insane.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh. And here we are sitting on Soul of the Skull talking about draft prospects.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, let's go.
Back to Soul of the Skull, though. Yes, I think the Vikings are going to draft a quarterback this year. And late round quarterback, of course, like I said, a guy like Dylan Gabriel, I would love to get in the late rounds. I don't remember who I was talking to, but someone said that they were really high on Will Howard. And I think he's gone by the 2nd, 3rd round. So there's no chance that we're going to get him late. And I wouldn't draft him until late anyways, just because we got a lot of other positional deficiencies we got to address first.
For sure.
So Vikings drafting a quarterback after round 4. And then finally is that the Vikings will make a 2nd round selection. We don't currently hold one of those, but I think they're going to trade back into the early 2nd. They're going to get a safety. That's just what I think is going to happen. Or they're going to trade back, late 1st and then pick up a late 2nd round pick or something like that. Because there's going to be a team inevitably that sees the guy they want at 24. They're going to want to trade up. The Vikings will get offers. Honestly, I think the odds that we trade down from 24 are higher than the odds that we stay at 24.
I'm going to Google and see if there's any sports books that have that. Does that exist?
Yeah, that's a good – I would love to see what the betting odds are.
We're going to look up Vikings draft odds.
Vikings draft
I don't know how this – I don't even know what I'm looking for. I'm not a gambling man myself, but –
neither am I.
I have no idea where to look for this stuff. I found they have the highest odds at pick 24 of taking Malachi Starks. They have plus 300 odds on that. I found that.
That seems like the kind of general consensus of what people think is going to happen. I hope that doesn't happen because honestly, I think Starks is a mid-2nd round to late 2nd round talent.
Your boy, Emanwari, he's their 3rd highest odds.
Who's their 2nd highest?
Being at pick 24, Will Johnson. This is according to bookies.com, whether you want to buy into
There
that.
is not one single chance that Will Johnson drops to 24.
It says there's a 22.2% chance according to
There is not
bookies.com.
one single chance he is dropping to 24. Oh my God. Who is making those bets?
They've also got plus 500 odds on Jade Barron. So
Jade Barron, there's not a chance that dude falls past 15. Johnson could fall to 20. I could see that. Neither of them are falling to 24. No way.
well,
There's just no way.
yeah, that's that. So
But
interesting.
yes, so
This week
first
I'm gonna
pick's
try
gonna
and
be a
look for that.
DB, probably going to be in the second round, and then they're definitely drafting a quarterback after round 4.
Yeah. So we'll just have to see if they happen. Love them though. I only have one Vikings prediction. Then I got some cross sport predictions to get into. It's too bad Sam O left because I know he'd love these. But my first prediction is my football one. There will be exactly 3 quarterbacks taken in the first round of the draft. I know that Sam O was kind of talking about this with Shedeur, Cam Ward, and Jackson Dart probably being the 3. And that's what I'm predicting here is it's going to be exactly 3, not necessarily those 3, even though that's probably what's going to end up happening. But it's not going to be 2. It's not going to be 4. It's going to be exactly 3. You just watch. So that's that.
Yeah, dude. Heck yeah.
Moving along. As I'm repping my Wild sweater, whatever you want to call this here today, they're going to lose their first round match, assuming they make the playoffs. If they don't make the playoffs and absolutely choke out of the postseason, then it's wrong. They're going to lose their first round match in 5 games because this is the Wild and they haven't won a first round match in over 10 years now. Yeah, this team is just not that good. They're barely clinging on with dear life. For anyone that follows other sports, they have 3 games left on their they have 4 games left on their schedule. They play tonight, and 2 of their best players are expected to return. They've had some injury issues, and they're barely clinging on to the last wild card spot in the Western Conference. So I'm assuming they'll make it, but they're not going to advance because they're just not that good. So that's that. Moving along, this is kind of mind-boggling, but the Wolves will reach the Western Conference Finals. They absolutely blew it last night against the Milwaukee Bucks. They were up by 24 with 10 minutes left and lost the game. They're currently 8th in the Western Conference right now, but there's a huge jumble up in the conference, and they have a chance to overtake teams. They got a huge game against Memphis tomorrow night. And yeah, I think I can't say last night's game is the best thing for them, but it's not a bad thing for them. Blowing such a big lead like that, it teaches them that that no lead is safe. You got to play till the clock hits 0. They've been really good at that this year, especially against bad teams playing games, and they take their foot off the gas because they think the game's over, and then suddenly, it's a 5-point game with just a few minutes left, and then Anthony Edwards or someone kind of shuts the door. But last night it got to a breaking point, and this is going to teach them that, yeah, you can't just coast in any sport. So there's my predictions. Sam, if you ever come back and watch this, hope you like those predictions. Figured you would have if you were here today, but that is that. And yeah, here is our predictions. I see Matt added this. I think this wasn't even during an episode. I think he just added this just because he felt like it. The tush push will not be banned. And they've had discussions.
Banned either.
They've had discussions. The owners have, and they've tabled it to a future, I don't know when, sometime in the off season, whenever they meet again next. I think it's in like May or June or something. They have their next set of league meetings. They'll look into it again there. Next week, we can do an episode where we look more into the rule changes, what's been banned, what is unknown. I don't see it getting banned, though, at least not this year. It'll take a little bit before. I feel like it's an abrupt turnaround for them to do that, but been wrong before. Could be wrong again. So there's our predictions, ladies and gentlemen. And that does it for episode. We're very happy to have Sam on today. It was great catching up with him. And hopefully he'll be back. Hopefully some of us will be back next week and we can chat some more about football. kick it back and do what we do best here.
Yeah, it was great to be back. School's starting to free up a little bit more for me. That's kind of the reason I've been off. Obviously, just coming straight from class in the scrubs and the CSBSJU nursing scrubs. So, school's starting to lighten up for me coming up to the end of the semester. So I should be a lot more free coming up here to be able to do podcasts again.
Yeah, we can't fault him though. He's nursing. He's doing healthcare. He's doing the work of God here. We got to appreciate that, man.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
We forgive him for not being on, except Big Lou, if you're watching this, where you at, bro? What do you
doing? I got to say, man, those engineering majors, they got a lot of work too. I can't knock that,
No, you're for sure right. One of my roommates is a mechanical engineering major, and it's all he does. His homework. Yeah. And he tells me about it. So.
Homework and studying and more homework and more studying. Yeah. At least most of my homework isn't like paper homework. Most of it's like go to, the hospital and work a couple hours on the labor and delivery unit or, things like that.
Yeah.
Complete this assessment and that assessment.
Yeah. Same. I'm a mass comm major, so my stuff isn't really books and whatnot. It's a pretty easy major. I'm not even going to lie compared to other people, but most of my stuff is projects and working.
Well, and I'm sure you have a lot of like speaking and presenting and stuff that you got to do too.
That would be more just communication studies. So mass communications is like radio, television, mass wide production kind of stuff. So I do a lot of that. And we got a guest in the comments.
Matt's in the chat. Thank you, Matt. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes. So, yeah, what were we talking about earlier with predictions and checkdowns? And now that Matt's watching, what were we talking about?
Matt, okay, so I got to bring this up because you're watching this. So you gave me so much crap for being, check down after check down for the entire 2023 season, right? During the 2023 season, my completion percentage was 41.94%, all right? I don't remember you giving Joel any crap last year, and his prediction percentage was 51.85. That's almost 10% higher than mine, and you were calling me a check down merchant. I want an apology.
We might have to duke this out next week, everybody.
We may have to duke this out.
This may have to be next week could get juicy, so everybody stay tuned for that.
I think, Matt, our tiebreaker, we'll have to figure out a tiebreaker for this to figure out who was correct. You and I will have to figure this out.
Yeah.
God, the Matt and Sam. I see Joel in person. He gets a lot of crud from me.
Valid.
Yeah, fair enough.
Sometimes I get bullied, I think, it's warranted bullied. So, sometimes you just got to have that.
Matt, you and I, we've had a generational beef since this podcast started, and I think we need to find some way to finally settle it because this has been going on for like 2 years now.
Yeah. Also, I am currently looking back to see when our first ever podcast episode was.
I think it was around.
We're coming up on 2 years. We might be over 2 years actually now.
I think it was around April, wasn't it?
March 19th, 2023.
Yeah, jeez.
So happy 2-year anniversary, everyone.
Heck yeah.
We're at 2 years. I remember 1 year was like a big thing, and we were like, yo, it's been a year. And now we're just kind of like, it's been 2 years.
2 of the 5 members are on. Let's go.
So that's that. Any closing thoughts? Oh, Matt's got more.
I was thinking like a competition, but okay. I'll keep that in mind.
All we gotta stay tuned, everybody, because I don't know.
Next week's gonna be interesting.
Yes, everybody better stay tuned for what's coming on the future of the show, because it's only getting better from here.
Oh yeah, that too, he says.
All right. Well, that does it for this episode, unless you got any other closing thoughts you'd like to share with us. It was a good episode today. I thought we had some good coverage. I couldn't really give much input, but it was good hearing you guys. And one of my more favorite episodes that we've done recently. Yeah. So
great episode. I'm really glad to be back. I just got 2 words for parting. Chad Beebe. That's it. That's all I have.
Oh man, the love for the low end wide receivers.
You gotta love the low end guys, man. The guys that are, you know, catching a touchdown or two a season.
Filling out the
You can't
roster.
not love them.
All right. Well, that does it for this episode. Thank you guys for watching and supporting us. And thank you, Matt, for giving us the engagement, because you're the one that gets this recommended on people's pages. So even if we're the ones engaging it, we take it. So thanks everybody for watching. We really appreciate it. We'll see you guys again coming up soon, and have a good one. Peace out. And as always, SKOL Vikings. See you guys next week.